regional sports park regulation.
Yes.
So you've got, what did you have there for regulation?
Wait for Derek to come back.
Oh, he's busy. Questions, yes.
Question on this one, Mr. Chairman, and that's on question A, Central Hawke's Bay District Council with its resource consents. The discharge is required to be upgraded. It's only 2 of the discharges, not all 3. Is that correct?
Oh.
The Otani one is to operate as is without a further upgrade?
Oh, yes, correct. Yes, it's Waipoka and Waipawa ones, yes.
Yeah.
So someone quite happy to move that? You're happy to move that, Councillor Gilbertson, seconded by Councillor Douglas. You wish to speak? Put that motion. All those in favour, please say aye. Contrary, no. Carried. Resource management charges. Questions?
Well, Mr. Chairman, you've noted here Section 36 charges, but I don't see any commentary around it. Oh, it's incept at the bottom, isn't it? Yeah. Oh, sorry, can I...
Sure, yeah, we can move on. I'll go
Okay, well, let's leave that just for now. Ruataniwha Water Storage Scheme.
So I want to get that reviewed. That Section 36.
I've just talked to Finn.
What are you reading your email now, are we?
But also communications. You might not need to do a review.
Yep.
Okay, there's a volume of issues here raised. Any questions in regard to any of those issues? Councillor Scott.
Going through all the issues that were raised, there was one actually that commended forethought shown by other areas in providing irrigation, and I can't actually take in all those points that one's covered, but there was one that definitely came up. I mean, they quoted Sri Lanka 2,000 years ago that they were providing, and it's time we got on with it, but I don't think that that's actually covered in that list of issues requiring support. Was the foresight shown by people in the past?
I didn't read the book.
So what's the suggested recommendation here?
It doesn't matter, it's just the summary of facts that the government taken into account the full range.
Well, it's noted, consider submissions. I just noted, consider the submissions related to the notes.
What's it right there?
It's right there.
Oh, sorry. Sorry. Yeah.
I did note, councillors, that Mr. Cowan in his verbal presentation yesterday asked for a written reply to his points of submission. So I mean, he made several, and that could certainly be incorporated into the chairman's reply.
Mr. Chair, I note the multiple references to delay and halt progress, etc., for the project. Do you think it would be useful to actually reference the council's decision to defer the establishment of HBRC to enable a good percentage of the submissions, points made in the submission, to actually transact, such as the financial analysis and the environmental outcomes, etc. So I wonder if it's worth including that in the response to submissions around that.
HBRC is established. It is operating. It's working with a transition board because all the elements in HBRC needed whether it's process, governance process, etc., needed to be transitioned into place. So I think we've got to be careful about the context, really. You follow me? Yes.
No, what we have done, though, is we've deferred the final
Board composition.
board composition, and
That's-
we're in,
that's-
we've
yep.
and we've said we're in transition during that period.
Yep.
So we've extended the period of transition for a number of reasons, which include finalisation of a whole host of investigations and outcomes from the resource consent application, etc. And my suggestion is that we actually make that point, that the final composition will not be, that decision has been deferred.
Not necessarily in a resolution, but in a reply.
In a reply to
Yeah.
so we indicate the steps that have been taken that meet some of the concerns raised in submission. Does that make sense at all?
So Gilbertson.
Mr. Chairman, I'll move that recommendation.
Recommendation there.
Yeah, with a and then I'll speak to it if it's seconded.
Okay, someone happy to second that?
Well, I'm happy to second it, but would the move?
Okay, you, Councillor Curtin, second it. But you wish to ask a question of the mover.
Yes, that we do include a comment around the decision made by Council. What was it? Our last meeting to defer the final establishment of, is it the establishment of or composition of board composition? Yes. How do you feel about that?
But what,
No, no, I'm not happy with
No.
that.
what does
So
that
like-
actually have to do? What difference does that make to the
No, I'm
council's
moving.
decision making and the fact that it has to tick off financial viability, uptake, and the other issues before a decision's made, and before a consultation is entered into?
Well, all of those points are relevant. Maybe we should be included. What I'm suggesting is we've got.
Well, hang on. Your motion is as it reads there. Are you happy to second that as it is, Councillor Curtin?
No.
Okay, you're happy to second, Councillor Douglas. You wish to speak.
Okay, Mr. Chairman, I make that support. I move that recommendation with the proviso that there is a reasonably detailed letter that goes out with it. And part of it, I'd like to say, because whoever put this outside view thing, I thought that was quite a good point, and I thought everything they made in that, all the pitfalls they pointed out in there, we had actually covered off. So, I'd like to see quite a reasonably comprehensive reply, because as we're all aware, it is the most important thing we've been doing for a generation, and it merits quite a reasonably comprehensive reply, which I think can just pick up all the stuff we've already put out in our press releases. But I think it's absolutely vital that those submitters get a reasonably comprehensive reply to their submissions. So I think that's all you need to do.
Seconded, Councillor Douglas.
Well, Mr. Chairman, I perfectly agree with Councillor Gilbertson's point, and this will come up on other things, but I think through this there's a lot of misunderstanding going on, and I think the Council has done a lot of the things that they are concerned about correctly. I don't mean concerned about negatively, but may not realise, and also the scale of this is massive. And, you know, it is difficult for folk who are not involved in major projects like this to conceive of all the bits you have to line up, all the ducks, and the streams of work, because there's dozens of them, and they are like snakes writhing around. That doesn't mean we should resile from trying to explain, and I think that's a different issue. But this is the start, so I'm happy with this, with some more detail there, and I have no personal problem with in the notes the commentary, because some of them did talk about council directors, that the transition board is still there and it will be going to a full board when the detail is there and the final decision is made. I've got no personal problem in that being in the letter, but the resolution conveys that.
Speakers, Councillor D.
Well, again, I think the foundation of communication is exemplified by Helen Shea's media statement of the 9th of May. It's a page and a half, and it's understandable, and it makes the pledge that there will be full consultation once the issues of the consent condition, market demand, investor support, and financial viability have some substance, and we can talk about it.
Councillor Curtin.
Well, the point I was trying to make, Mr. Chair, and including steps the council has already made, was in fact to explain to the submitters that their concerns and their requests for delay, etc., are noted, and the council has in fact responded in some measure to accommodate, if you like, or at least to recognise that there are issues that need resolving before we proceed in any direction. I mean, we have deferred a decision on the final composition of the HBRC company. We have made it a call to have those conflict of interest issues dealt with a report back to council, and to me these are things well worth discussing, highlighting at every opportunity we've got. And what I'm saying here is that a number of these submitters are key protagonists in this debate, and putting their facts in front of them and council's responses at every opportunity we can should be taken. And that's the only reason I'm suggesting that our response be explicit and fulsome with what we have done and going to do.
Other speakers?
Mr. Chairman, the submissions were mixed, some wanting a cup of tea and some wanting us to proceed and not be waylaid in our purpose. But the interesting thing is that Mr. Dunningham, who submitted on the outside view, surprisingly, I found that was exactly what we'd done. And I think perhaps with more information, these people might find there is more assurance. I really couldn't quite think where he was coming from when he was putting the alternative. But I think the important thing is that we should actually highlight back to these submitters all of the different times they have to submit on the information. And that information has now been out there, and as they move through these periods of submission, they will have had that information available to them for in excess of a year. And so it's the submissions that can occur during the EPA process, which is a whole new round of submissions because it gets re-notified, and the same with the plan, I presume that goes out for further submissions. And then on our own next stop go point, which is another submission point, and another consultation point. So I think if we really do highlight to them the various parts of those processes, which is what they've been asking for, it's not necessary to delay it when it's all there. So maybe there is some comfort in actually seeing the timetable for engagement and involvement.
Mr. Summer? Oh, sorry, Mr. Morty.
Yes, in supporting Councillor Curtin's comments, to my view, there's 8 out of the 14 subjective or emotive type statements. The dam on hold, take account of decision makers need to read, support calls for support, hard to justify. Those are what I'd call emotive sort of issues. But the other, haven't got my calculator, 8 and 6, 6 others require just further emphasis. And as Councillor Douglas said, if you just keep putting it out there, some of them will keep bashing their head against the wall and say they don't understand. However, for every sort of 100 bashes, you'll get one that'll come through, perhaps.
Thank you. You wish to sum up, Councillor Gilbertson?
Just to re-emphasise that we need to put quite a comprehensive reply in, which I'm sure will be done.
Thank you. I'll put that motion, and all those in favour please say aye. Contrary, no. Carried. Ian's just gone to get the info. Let's keep going to solar hot water, please, on page 40. Questions are... You happy to move? And you're happy to second, Councillor Gilbertson. Wish to speak? Thank you. Put that motion. All those in favour, please say aye. Contrary, no. Carried. Strategic partner, Tom Belford. Talking about a future relationship. Councillor Douglas.
Just a question, and I should know, but I have no idea really. Is it, do staff and/or councillors meet with the environmental umbrella of any sort, however defined, on a regular basis at all, to have that sort of forum that he was talking about?
Te Taiho.
Biodiversity strategy.
Yes.
It tends to be maybe the answer.
Project related, isn't it?
It's project related. If it's a catchment plan change, or it's a regional water strategy, or it's a biodiversity strategy. And the key thing, if I just though to finish it off, one of the things we did ask John Chain to do when he established the Te Taiho Environmental Forum was have a clear mandate from the participating groups in there that they would act as one in terms of one voice. They all, Te Taiho has just been an add-on, if you like, to the voices.
It's an extra group.
Yeah, I got that impression actually. And this is still a question. Would it be a good idea on a non-project base to actually get folk in one room? I'm a great fan of just letting steam off if necessary, I say twice a year, and anybody who identifies to come in and just talk about the environment and how they see the world. There may be a couple of agenda items, but is that a good idea just to have? I know it's another forum, it's another night out and all that sort of thing, but maybe that helps get that conversation going?
No. I mean, we can. I mean, that's certainly possible if they're willing. I mean, there's sometimes the difficulty is if you don't have perhaps have a particular topic to talk to, you may not engender perhaps enthusiasm to come out on a cold night. But having said that, if there's just a genuine open opportunity for people to put out there whatever they're thinking, then that's certainly worthwhile approach.
Mr. Chair. Yeah. I think we have had one of those meetings in here. It was in the summertime, so didn't have to come on a cold night. But I've met with the Māori groups of this Te Taiho, and part of that was trying to get Mr. Sheen to say the name correctly as well.
Councillor Scott.
Mr. Chairman, would it be helpful if staff gave an indication of the number of hours over the last year that have been spent and number of staff involved, senior staff involved, in meeting with environmental groups to clarify issues that they have? Because my understanding is it's considerable.
Thousands
Might
of
need
dollars.
to be one of the things we look at cutting off our bottom line.
Councillor Dick, did you have a question?
I just can't help making the comment that if Tom Belford gets his way, there'll be no regional council to have a relationship with in any case.
Sorry, you wish to speak, Councillor Scott? No speakers. Put that motion, and all those in favour, please say aye. Contrary, no. Carried. Strategic planning on page 42. Questions in regard to that as per...
Mr. Chairman, is it possible to turn the Antarctic calendar on?
Just push that middle one, Ant. Thank you.
Desperately holding papers as if I across the room.
Done.
Recommendation for the strategic planning says...
Submissions. No, it's the work already underway.
Any questions in relation to that? Someone happy to move that? Councillor Scott, seconded. Councillor Gilbertson. Wish to speak? Thank you. All those in favour, please say aye. Contrary, no. Carried. Taharua Mohaka catchment pronunciation. Sorry.
Yes, you ruled on that yesterday morning.